Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pokemon Review Series. In this episode, we're going over one that I am pretty proud to talk about, that being Braviary. Now, for those of you that don't know, I'm a citizen of the United States, so I thought it was kind of funny when they added this guy. Fun fact: they actually introduced this guy on Presidential Inauguration Day here in the United States. It's totally a coincidence, but some people pointed that out, and I thought that was kind of funny. So, little history fact about the game, about Braviary being the American Eagle Pokemon. But anyway, it's a pretty interesting Pokemon in this game, and I'll get into why that is. Now, for this video, we're actually backtracking through the decks because it was released later than when I already got past where its spot in the decks would be. I'm sure that's going to be a much more common occurrence as I go further on in these videos. But yeah, Braviary. It's Slumbering type. That's pretty typical for flying type Pokemon. And it's got a skill specialty and is currently the only Pokemon in the game with the basic Berry Burst skill. But Mimikyu basically does the same sort of thing, just with a different working skill. The way that this works is it produces 30 flying berries of its type using its level, and then 5 berries from each team member at max level, varying amounts depending upon which level the skill is at. But that's notably more than what Mimikyu has. I think Mimikyu has for level 6, it's like level 20, it's 21 berries. But Mimikyu's Disguise has a chance to crit each day. It can crit one time a day where it produces triple the berries. Braviary's skill does not have that effect. So overall, Mimikyu's skill most days will come out on average to be stronger than what Braviary's can do if it happens to get that crit, is basically the idea behind it. So this one's going to be more reliable, less RNG. There's not an extra layer of RNG added on top of it. But Mimikyu is going to average better for how valuable a single proc is. Now, what are some more interesting things about this? It's got a really low ingredient rate of only 12.1%. It doesn't really matter for a skill specialist, though, but also skill trigger rate, significantly low. Like, 3.2% is a pretty low rate. Mimikyu's, for comparison, let's see. If I pull Mimikyu up here real quick, I think it's like 3.3%. Let's see. I don't want to be wrong about this. 3.3%, yeah. So they're very comparable to each other, but that's some of the lowest skill trigger rates in the game that aren't legends, which means these two guys benefit less from skill trigger subskills in nature than other skill specialists do, because it's going to be hitting the pity proc point more, even with those additional skill trigger subskills. So they notably are, it's more beneficial to have things like Help Speed M along with Skill Trigger M than it is to have Skill Trigger M and Skill Trigger S, because the pity procs gain from Help Speed M is actually going to be overall more impactful than the extra RNG based procs produced by Skill Trigger S. So, and that's especially noticeable on skill specialists with this low of a skill trigger rate. Now, it's a 12 pip Pokemon to befriend, but it spawns as a 5 pip, being Rufflet. It's pre-Evo. It's got a 40-minute speed, which is pretty fast, honestly. It's a pretty good frequency, which is probably why it's a little bit lower of a skill trigger rate than Mimikyu, because it does have a faster frequency by 100 seconds. It's got an 18 inventory, which is a little bit on the lower side, but given that it gets a level of evolution, it's actually better than its competitor and what its skill is. Because Mimikyu doesn't have evolution, so only 19 versus 18 plus 5 is 23. And yeah, now something else very notable about it is that, like I said, one, it's a 5 pip catch. But something that a lot of players noticed when this guy was released is that, man, its evolution requirement sucks. Level 41. It's funny, they only made it 40 candies to evolve. Which is like, oh yay, it's cheaper to evolve, but you have to get to level 41 to actually evolve it. So it's not a really cheap invest, because you can't really temp invest this guy. They only evolve if you get them all the way to level 41. But I wouldn't suggest temp investing a Pokemon like this anyway, because I think that Berry Burst as a skill is a very late game skill. I don't think it's very good in the early game, but I think it gains a lot of ground and potential for late game productivity. Especially past level 60, which we're not at yet. But I've got my theories, and we'll see how they turn out as time goes on. So, To compare it to other potential options, if we make a production comparison, I threw this together from the Mimikyu video, and it pretty much applies the same exact way for Braviary. Except for I forgot to change this over to be a Dodrio, which was what I was intending to do. So please stand by. If I compare it to Dodrio for flying berries, you can see that it does technically come out a little bit stronger, but that's with the calculator's idealistic nature of assuming that it's producing all of its own berries. In reality, that's not going to be the case because it's alongside a team, and almost half of its berries are coming from those additional berries that are from the rest of the team. 30 versus 20, so I guess 40%. 40% of its berries are coming from the rest of the team, which is not from itself. So this really isn't accurate as a flying dedicated berry specialist, because only 60% of these berries are actually going to be flying type berries. But it also theoretically can compete for the role of generalist with the charge strength Pokemon, and as you can see here, it's a little bit worse, but better if they have favored berry. But once again, this assumes all flying type berries, when in reality, you'd think you'd be running it alongside at least one favored berry specialist. So you'd have to throw it into team analysis to really make the true comparison. And just like with the Mimikyu, it does come out to be a bit better when you have favored berry. But without favored berry, if you run it alongside all favored berry specialists, so the best possible circumstance for it, it actually is a decent amount worse than like an Ampharos for a generalist. So with the current level of the game, the current level cap of the game, I think that it is a worse generalist than Ampharos. But I can imagine a world where if they just increase... Oh, because it's like 50k versus 54k. That's it's almost a 20% increase to go to Ampharos over the Braviary. So Mimikyu's a bit closer because of the whole crit chance, but even if we just change these to level 75 as like with the theoretical projection, then the Braviary does actually beat out the Ampharos as a generalist when placed alongside all favored berry Pokemon. So it's got more theoretical future potential, especially if they were to add another main skill level to Berry Bomb, because then it would be scaling off of both seeds and levels, which other skill specialists will scale off of only seeds. Berry specialists will only really scale off of level. These guys are very interesting in that they scale off of both, so there's double scaling, which has a lot of late game potential. Now, compared to a Dodrio, it actually does outperform a decent Dodrio by a decent amount as a generalist, or as a flying berry specialist, unlike the comparison that we have for Mimikyu. I think that's just because Dodrio is kind of a bit of an underwhelming Pokemon right now compared to other options. So if we get another flying berry Pokemon, then maybe. But it is our best flying berry option, realistically, especially since it's producing those other berries. Now, if we took this back a little bit, then obviously that's not going to be nearly as good because it's also relying on the strength of the other Pokemon on the team. If we even just set it to level 50, you can see that it's doing a little bit worse than the Dodrio. Let's see, if we make the Braviary level 60, set it. Yeah, it still performs a little bit better, even if the rest of the team's level 50. So, I don't know. It's got a weird role. It's a weird Pokemon, but I wouldn't recommend it early game because early game, you're generally going to be doing better with these guys. Even now, I think you'd be better doing it with most berry specialists. But if you have neat teams that have a lot of berry synergy, then I think this dude is going to be the mon of the future. Mimikyu and Braviary, these Pokemon, I think are going to be very meta relevant as higher levels come out, and especially if they add more skill levels. So, yeah. If you haven't enjoyed the video... Oh, wait a minute. No, not time for the ending yet. I forgot to talk about ingredients. I'm sorry about that. Sorry for faking you out. It's got sausage, corn, and coffee. I mean, once again, don't hunt these guys for their ingredients, but it's interesting to consider what they can make. Sausage and corn is pretty synergistic with like things like Inferno Corn Keema Curry and Cross Chopped Salad. There's a pretty nice synergy there. The coffee is kind of the troll ingredient here, I'd say, for the most part. It's got some synergy with the Mold Breaker Tiramisu with corn and coffee, but with that being just the B and C ingredient, you're really only supplementing very minor portions of that, with none of them being at base. So, I mean, I guess the preferred ingredient list right now would be like A, B with the corn and the sausage, but it's a skill specialist. Don't care about it that much. Alrighty, that is the actual end of the video. If you have enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. As always, feel free to join us in the Discord. That link will be in the description. And I thank you guys for watching and hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye now.